Okay, the sump pump is usually located in some kind of utility closet or cemented area. It is basically just a deep well that has a pump inside of it, and it has a plastic cover over it. So I'm going to kind of show you the pump. Here's the well. You got this PVC pipe coming out, and you got the pump, which is right there. I've got corrugated tubing coming in, and that's where all my water drains in. Now, I had this pump fail on me, and I got home yesterday and my basement was kind of flooded. Luckily, I caught it early enough where there was really only some carpet damage and some personal property damage, but this whole area had about an inch of water in here, and all this carpet got damaged. I've been able to dry it out since, but I got to replace the pump. So I got all the water pumped out, and now I'm going to replace the pump. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I've got this line, this electrical line going from my water meter over here, and it's zip tied here onto this pipe. And this is the ejection pipe for the sump pump. So I'm going to clip that wire, or not, excuse me, not the wire. I'm going to clip this zip tie so I can get the wire off of there. And then I am going to remove, let me kind of situate my light here. There we go. I'm going to remove this section of the pipe here with the wrench. Take that off and get this piece off, and then this whole assembly will just be able to lift right out of the hole. So I unscrew this. I already got it down to hand tightening. So take that off, and when you take this off, you're going to get some water in here because this ejection pipe is probably full of water because there's a backflow valve in here. And that valve opens up like this when water is getting pumped out, and then the back force of the water coming back down closes the valve. So there's a backflow valve in there, and we're taking that backflow valve out. So the rest of this vertical pipe going up 10 feet is full of water, and it's going to empty out into the sump pump tank. So as I said, you can see I started to remove that, and it started leaking immediately. So I just need to let all the water drain out. It's getting close to draining out. Okay, now I got those two pieces of pipe taken apart. As you can see, I can literally just lift this whole assembly. It's pretty heavy. If I can get this cap situated, I can lift this whole assembly right out of the tank now. And there's my tank. My tank's already filling up from the water I put in there and the water that drained out of the pipe, so I kind of got to do this repair job relatively quickly. So here's the current sump pump, and this just screws right into the sump pump. So I'm going to remove this threaded pipe from the sump pump, put on the new sump pump on that threaded pipe, and put the assembly back together. Okay, this is just a male section right here. Here's my old sump pump. Not quite sure what was wrong with it, but it's about 7 or 8 years old, and it's kind of a piece of junk anyway, so I'm going to replace it. Okay, so I got my new sump pump here. Just going to screw this in. You don't need to use thread tape or anything like that, because thread tape is usually used to keep water from leaking out, but since this is going to be submerged in water, it doesn't really make a difference. Some chain lock grips to tighten it up. Okay, let's just kind of walk through how a sump pump works here real quick, so you have that general information. This is a bobber right here. This whole thing just sits down in the base of the sump pump well, and it usually sits on a cement block or a piece of wood or something flat and relatively sturdy. You don't want to set it right on dirt because you could clog the sump pump that way. So what happens is, as the water goes up in the well, the bobber goes up. Once it goes all the way up, it activates a trigger that turns on the pump. And then as the water gets pumped out, it comes down and it deactivates that trigger and the pump stops. And that's how it works. So something to look for is sometimes these bobbers can get junk in them and can get stuck in the down position, and your pump will never go off. That's pretty rare because these bobbers are usually manufactured very well, so they don't get stuck a lot. And then the pump just pumps it up out of this tube, and as you see in the top of this tube here, we have a check valve. Now, as I stated earlier, the purpose of the check valve is to keep backflow from coming in. So when the pump is activated, you kind of see how I open this check valve, the water pressure opens this valve and water comes up through the pipe, and then when the pump stops, the pressure of the water coming back on the valve closes it so the water can't get back down into the well. So that's why you get a lot of water sitting in the rest of that vertical pipe. A 10-foot pipe of 1.5 inches will hold I think 1 gallon to 1.5 gallons of water. And then what happens, the sump pump just pumps it up and out of your house. So now I've got my sump pump all put back together, and I am going to put it down in the well and see if my heights match. If they don't, I'm probably going to have to dig out some dirt or find a different block to put it on. I've got a cement block down there right now. Okay, I've got my new pump placed down in the well on my cement block down there, and I put the pipe back together, and actually the pipe fits perfectly, so it was about the same size as my old pump. Now I'm just going to tighten the pipe on, and you'll see here that the pipe has a gasket in here. There's a gasket right there, that black gasket. So I'm going to slide that down so I get a good water seal, and then tighten that on. Then I'm going to plug in the pump and test it. Okay, something else to consider here that I almost screwed up myself right there. When you put the pump down in the water, make sure that the bobber is positioned where it's not going to get caught on anything. Because like I said, if it gets stuck, your pump's not going to run. So, or it's going to run continuously, one or the other. So make sure that you can rotate the pump around that pipe. Make sure you just move it in an area where the bobber is free from getting stuck on anything. Okay, now it's the moment of truth. I'm going to go ahead and plug this thing in, and we'll see what we get. As you can hear, you hear the pump kick on right away. Water level's going down. It sucked it dry and the pump went off. Which is exactly what we want to hear. We still have some water dripping in, but that's just water coming in from under the house, so that's going to fill up again and the pump's going to go off and eject it. And we just repaired our sump pump. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to zip tie these cords up to something so they don't accidentally come unplugged, and turn my sump pump off. I'm going to put my cover back on, and I'm going to clean up.